Come on. Seek and... All right, seek and destroy!
Some may ask, why is Metallica seen as the best thrash metal band of all time? They have been criticized to have gone more mainstream with a few songs, but the reason is simple. 1. Kill 'Em All, Ride the Lightning, and Master of Puppets. The first album, Kill 'Em All, literally lit the thrash metal flame in the summer of 1983. Ride the Lightning, the second, broadened its parameters to no end and showed that thrash could progress and would be no passing fad. And the third album, Master of Puppets, decisively consolidated the movement's mainstream awareness with as impeccable a set of songs as fans have ever seen. And Justice for All had the classic hit One, which was the first heavy metal song ever performed at the Grammys.
Metallica!
And, yes, their fifth album, their self-titled album, Metallica, many call it the Black Album, ushered in the band's more mainstream metal fans from the masterpiece track Nothing Else Matters. But with the first three straight essential albums mentioned, Metallica repeatedly set and raised the bar for thrash metal albums, release by album release. Hello and welcome to 80s Nostalgia. Here we are paying tribute to one of the greatest bands of all time, a rock and roll band who formed in 1981, Metallica. Please click on subscribe for future videos like this and more. Metallica was a highly influential American heavy metal band that, along with Megadeth, Slayer, and Anthrax, all developed the subgenre speed metal, called thrash metal, in the early and mid-1980s. Metallica is seen as the leader of the pack. The founding members of Metallica, as most know, are frontman James Hetfield from Downey, California, and Lars Ulrich from Gentofte, Denmark, both born in 1963. Lars moved to California in 1980 and met James. James' childhood was different from most. He was raised under Christian Science, so his mother didn't let him attend any health classes, and if he ever got sick, he wasn't allowed to take medicine since they didn't believe in doctors. The song on the Black Album, which is band's fourth album, called The God That Failed, is related to his religious upbringing. James' mother put him in piano classes for a few years, which James didn't enjoy, but said it helped his fingers learn the guitar for the future. On the other hand, Lars grew up in Denmark in a tennis family. His father, Torben Ulrich, was a professional tennis player, as well as Lars's grandfather, so Lars played some himself. And Lars was actually ranked in the top 10 in Denmark in the late 70s, but didn't quite find the joy in it, and had more of a passion for music. Lars was always around music, since his dad took him to a Deep Purple concert when he was 9 years old. He loved bands like Deep Purple, Iron Maiden, Motorhead, and more. So he decided, after moving to the US in 1980 and not making it on his high school tennis team, to start a rock and roll band. Metallica would officially form on October 28, 1981, after Lars put an ad out in a local magazine called The Recycler several months before. James was already in a band called Leather Charm. Hugh Tanner of Leather Charm reached out to Lars to set up a jam session. The first one didn't go great in terms of what James and Tanner thought of Lars, but Lars persisted and kept contacting James, as they were both loners since a young age. And Lars felt that they could succeed. After a few jam sessions, Lars and James Metallica relocated to San Francisco at request of Cliff Burton. Lars, James, and Dave happily moved. On April 11th of 1983, the band came to the tough decision to let Dave Mustaine go as the lead guitarist and get someone new. Dave had problems with violent behavior, drug and alcohol abuse, so the band had to release him. Mustaine went on to form his own thrash band, Megadeth, which would rival for a decade with Metallica. Metallica still had to find its lead guitarist now.
Exodus. I formed that band and gave that band its name, and was in the band for about 1.5 years or so before I left to join Metallica.
Kirk Hammett was their guy, and they asked him to fly to Rochester. He agreed and felt more comfortable than in the band he started himself. So Metallica was now ready to record its debut album. Metallica's debut album, Kill 'Em All, sold 60,000 copies in the first year as they toured extensively in the US and Europe. Lars felt that Europe got the word around and built fans up more on tour. This is when the genre of thrash metal was formed, led by the bands Metallica, Megadeth, Slayer, and Anthrax. The second album, Ride the Lightning, landed Metallica a top 200 US Billboard spot and includes the classic hits Fade to Black and For Whom the Bell Tolls. These two albums started the thrash metal legacy, but the next album would catapult it. In March of 1986, Master of Puppets was released and is seen as one of the greatest metal records of all time.
I mean, the overall sound hasn't really changed that much. I think the only thing that changed a bit was that when Kirk and Cliff joined the band, they contributed to the songwriting end of things, which the two other members didn't in the early days.
It was a devastating year for the band. The band was touring with Ozzy Osbourne in the beginning of the year, and the album was doing great. But while traveling September 26 of 1986, there was a tragedy on tour that hurt them all forever.
The first card that Cliff picked was the Ace of Spades, and he looked at me and said, "I want your bunk." And I said, "Fine, you take my bunk, I'll sleep up front. That's probably better anyway, you know." Later on that night, at about 5 or 6 in the morning, I heard a skidding, I heard a vibration, and then this motion. I thought we were going off a cliff.
At 7 a.m. in the morning, their tour bus driver lost control and the bus flipped off the road. Cliff Burton was thrown out of the window and the bus landed directly on top of him. And unfortunately, this would be the end for him. James, Kirk, and Lars all felt that Cliff wouldn't have wanted them to stop touring and lose the drive that he was part of, according to Kirk Hammett. And they also asked for Cliff's family's blessings to let the show go on.
Looking back on it now, it's really good that the period of time has been so short, because like the main things that we decided when we met up again, you know, about a week after the accident, was that we wanted to do it as fast as possible, which would sort of shorten the time of us sitting around, you know, feeling sorry for ourselves and moaning and groaning and so forth.
So a new bass player was needed, and after sessions with over 40 bass players, Jason Newsted joined Metallica as their bass player. In 1987, Metallica was scheduled to play at the 1987 Monsters of Rock Festival at Castle Donington. Therefore, the band's UK label Vertigo Records suggested that they release new material to mark the occasion. New bassist Jason Newsted tried initial songwriting attempts, which only resulted in a demo for Blackened. And James Hetfield broke his arm while skateboarding and was unable to play his guitar for several weeks. With these problems, the band decided to record covers of some of their favorite songs, rather than work on new material. Jason Newsted utilized his earlier experience as a construction worker to soundproof Lars Ulrich's garage in El Cerrito, California, where the band would rehearse the material prior to recording. Metallica included the 598 EP in the title as an effort to ensure that retailers did not overcharge fans. The original cassette release was marked as the 598 EP Do Not Pay More. However, as CDs came out, It had to be amended by stores, of course, since CDs costed more than tapes. And Justice for All was their fourth album, and the album that got them their first Grammy nomination for Best Hard Rock Metal Performance in 1989. They would, however, to boos from the crowd, lose out to Jethro Tull. Jethro Tull did not show up and does not regret it. However, Metallica did have the first ever Grammy performance by a heavy metal artist, performed before the award, which is why the crowd and fans were in disbelief.
They wouldn't let me bring the real one. All right. And the winner is crest of a name, Jethro Tull. And they're not here, so we'll accept this and divvy it up backstage. Thank you.
Heavy metal was confined to the
But it wasn't too bad a loss, since Metallica would go on to win 3 Grammys in the next 3 years.
The rebellious essence of rock and roll alive.
The first Grammy Award for Metallica was from And Justice for All, and it was for the
song One from the Grammy-nominated album And Justice for All, Metallica.
The story of a soldier at war, blind, unable to speak, with no arms or legs, and begging God to take his life. It was one of many anti-war songs that Metallica would have written over their careers, and definitely the most successful. Before writing the classic hit, One, James's older Dave, who was also in a band, told him a story from a book called Johnny's Got a Gun, about a guy who was like a prisoner in his own body. And James felt like that himself when he heard the story. James' childhood was different, as mentioned before, as his father left the family and never came back when he was 13 years old. And his mother passed away shortly thereafter from cancer. So he was orphaned in a sense as a teenager. In a sense then, the song One is an anti-war song, but also about James's upbringing as a teenager. This part of the song is where Lars Ulrich uses his classic double bass towards the end of One. The 32nd Grammys a year later, Metallica got their first of 10 Grammys to date. Their first was for Best Metal Performance for One in the album And Justice for All.
Let's see, I think the first thing we gotta do is, obviously, like you guys were expecting, is we gotta thank Jethro Tull for not putting out an album this year, right? And also, obviously, we gotta thank the Academy for giving Jethro Tull the award in 1989. Read between the lines, know what I mean? So, I want to thank the... Oh, you guys figured it out, huh?
Into the early 90s, in 1992, Metallica would collaborate with Bob Rock and come out with what would arguably be their most successful album, earning them 2 Grammys, their self-titled album, Metallica. Many call it the Black Album. Some hardcore Metallica fans didn't like tone of some of the songs, like Nothing Else Matter. James and the band felt like it was the most difficult album to record. The Black Album would be their next album, produced by Bob Rock. He wanted the band to work together in the studio and collaborate during the 8-month recording of the album. The writing style was different, and Metallica's sound was more serious in Black Album compared to thrash metal, and songs that related to James' younger life as well. With songs like Nothing Else Matters and Sad But True, Robert Trujillo joined Metallica as their bassist in 2003. He was in his band Suicidal Tendencies from 1989 to 1995 and left to perform with Ozzy Osbourne, Jerry Cantrell, and the heavy metal band Black Label Society. Then after Jason Newsted left Metallica in 2001 for personal reasons. Mainly, Lars and James not getting along with him, stemming from artistic issues. As Jason wanted to pursue side projects to Metallica's objection, and other tensions regarding Jason's production, possibly Jason feeling just like a fill-in for the late Cliff Burton.
I think there were a couple things about Jason, you know, his personality. He felt.
But Robert Trujillo has been a member for 20+ years now as Metallica's bass after taking over for Jason Newsted. Metallica has gone on through the 90s and new millennium to the 2010s and today to still tour. Metallica is literally on tour to this day. Amazing as it sounds, they have won 9 Grammys, 5 Billboard Awards, 2 American Music Awards, and various others. Just say 103 total awards. They perform all over the world on every continent and with every genre. Metallica is still going strong today. Was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2009 and still perform as this video is made. Yet they began in 1981 with the co-founders Lars Ulrich and James Hetfield. The 80s nostalgia bringing us Metallica, the best thrash metal band, and as Elton John says, one of the best F-in bands of all time. We'd like to thank you in this documentary and honoring of the one and only Metallica. Please click on the like and subscribe for more 80s nostalgia. 80s forever.